sent wisdom to earth along with other 70,000 archangels to search for the only heart where there would be no love towards the world, so that wisdom could live there. I found my place. Now you can go, said wisdom to the angels. Next morning the mortal was speaking God-given wisdom. This story is led by divine truth and wisdom, the threads of which take us to the east. The land of Aryans, where the fates of different nations have been crossed, histories and cultures have been carved out, and nations have survived while recording their existence throughout centuries down to present. Over centuries, the sun has risen over the lake of Urmia and brought the vital light, each time filling up the human soul with hope and brightness. Salute the sun, salute Urmia, the witness of our nation's bitter and heroical history. All of these things that you see in the world rise from the sun of the other world. The world is like a face and eyebrows, hair and moles, and everything is unerringly in its place. Iran. Along with other nations, Assyrians made their shelters in this country. Assyrians, that is Isors, Nestorians, Nazrans. With the spread of Christianity, the Assyrian church communities began to take shape in Persia. Beginning in the 5th century, various Christian centers became active. According to tradition, the Assyrians, being persecuted by religious secessions and conflicts in their homeland, moved to Urmia in the 6th century. During the 12th and 13th centuries, there were Assyrian episcopacies in the provinces of Salmast and Ushnuk. Assyrians living in the Hakkari's provinces of Julamurk and Mosul, which were in the territory of the Ottoman Empire, crossed the Persian border and settled across the western shore of Lake Urmia. This mountain range divides the Urmia Lake into western and eastern parts. The western part is larger and wrapped in mountains. While the eastern part is lower, encompassing Lake Urmia. The Assyrian villages, surrounded with flowering gardens and vineyards, are mainly placed in this fertile land. Due to the favorable climate, rich natural heritage and caravan roads, the Urmia region was always of strategic significance. In different times, different nations, including Assyrians, created their heirs in this area. The Assyrians, living peacefully and exempt from Kurdish invasions, found their roofs in the northwestern and southwestern shores of Urmia. But a little piece of the nation flocked to the mountains, the provinces of Mergavar and Tergavar. And this wonderful piece of Persia became the promised land of the Assyrians. At one time, the basin of the Urmia was enfolded by the Assyrians. The number of their villages in 19th century amounted to 100. It is a hopeless task to find Assyrian populated villages today, but a range of humble standing churches and monasteries, ancient buildings and cemeteries have survived throughout centuries and become the living evidence of the serious, glorious past. These are the outstanding facts of the nation's existence and power. The Assyrians in Persia were chiefly the followers of the Nestorian Church, now Holy Apostolic Catholic Assyrian Church of the East, which in the medieval times widely prospered and expanded. But as a result of historical changes and ups and downs, it was persecuted for its ideology. Only a few pieces of the once mighty church remain in 19th century. Enfolded across the IKAR mountains and around Lake Urmia, under the leadership of Mar Shimun, whose seat was in the Kuchanis village of IKAR's Jilo province. The villages of Ada, Armutagash, Ardishai, Gavilan and Gitaba were the bishopric villages of the Assyrian Church. Here is the Margevargis bishopric church of Supurgan village. Time seems frozen here. Where are your proud adherents, Margevargis? I want time to fly back so that I can hear my nation's prayer to the Lord, here, in this luminous shrine of my ancestors' relics. It is quiet in the yard. Only the old trees rustle. Who knows how they have planted these poplars? Perhaps humming a hearty song of whispering a prayer to God, beseeching Him protect and preserve this faithful nation. Your only devoted resident is the stork, Margevargis. It has woven its nest on your rooftop and now is looking around with proud silence, seeking the people who once abandoned this old village. According to historical data, Supurgan was one of the 3 regions from where, during the Lang Timur invasions, the Assyrians had fled to the Zagros mountains of the Hakkari region in the Ottoman Empire. At one time, the village of Supurgan included more than 400 Assyrian families. The churches of this region were poor and simply constructed. It was stipulated by old tradition of Nestorian church. It was distinguished by its simple furnishing and lack of icons inside. Later, quite a few churches in the 19th century were changed and renovated by European and American missionaries. St. Petrus and Paulus, or Peter and Paul, is one of the old Assyrian churches of Urmia. According to legend, it was built in the 8th century by a medieval Syrian physician named Gabriel Bohtishu. Arabian resources describe him as a court physician and a family member of renowned Bohtishu doctors. From legends we know that there was a hospital here for sick people to come and have treatment. Gavilan was also one of the villages that belonged to the Eastern Church. Because of its insecure geographic location, Gavilan was often subjected to Kurdish attacks. On a hilltop is the church of Mar Yohanan. According to scripture, it was founded in the 13th century. Much can be known about Persia's Assyrians and their villages from the rich descriptions, studies and research works of the Christian preachers. The Catholic Church was present here in all times, having the village of Khusrava in Salmas province as its bishopric. According to documents, the Catholic mission here started in 1781. The Catholic Assyrians or Chaldeans in Khusrava totaled 16,700 towards the end of the 19th century. Our guide, Gevargis Sharlo, a common Assyrian man from Urmia, was gladly and enthusiastically leading us from village to village, telling us memorable stories about the Assyrian villages and their past. Here is the church of Mar Gevargis, St. George of Khusrava. It differs from other churches of this region. The front of the building is constructed with old tombstones. The church was finally ruined during the 1931 earthquake. Until 1918, 400 Assyrian families from surrounding settlements visited the place of worship.
Babdi Surayeva, Yemiyorusneteva, Shilallaha, Maschine Litvae danatla, Maschine Svakakuli Iran, Shitilit Leitre. Shilan Shrilan Gushapur, Mama and Papa's Lerdara, Shila Muchukle Suiraila, Armnai Muchukle, Mama Lishantir Naidab Daiva, Papa Muyeva Bulharski Perец, Daiva Mudile, Харта Пуховка помидоры, и он занял одно место людей, Менаши Звакледуйта, Зрили Бадамджан, بيبر بلغارسكي خرطة كيلبلي بالي أو تهران أكتر بدوچاني بابا تيابن بداماتا.
This figure drastically was decreased as a result of massacres perpetrated against the Syrians by Turkish and Kurdish brigands. Supposedly, the Franciscan order in Khusrava was established in 1318. The church of Mar Gevargis in the end of the 16th century was the seat of Chaldean Patriarch Simon IX. Missionary expansion started here in the 19th century. The pioneers were the American Protestants, Presbyterians from the American Board for Foreign Missions, headed by Justin Perkins. He paid a call on the Nestorian bishop of Gavilan, Mar Yohanan, who received Perkins in a friendly manner and later became his first tutor of the Assyrian language. Among the American missionaries there were clergymen, teachers, merchants, publishers, and doctors. I felt a stronger desire to settle among the Nestorian Assyrians, at once as a missionary than among any people I have ever seen. wrote one of the American missionaries. They also liked the beautiful country. Urmia seemed altogether the finest, the most densely populated and highly cultivated tract they had seen in Asia. Settling in Urmia and neighboring Assyrian populated villages, the American missionaries established schools, opened almshouses and hospitals.
أنا أصلي ابن ألياون بابي من ماموني خيشوا روسيا خشيت أبشن تاما درنتيلون مدري يورمي قاشا إتوالا نه قاشا قديمي إتوالا قاشا هرموس قاشا داود قاشا يويل أديا ديتن جو كيفا إتلون قاشا هرموس من كل جور وأديا كيفا خوارت في درسة أمرا جو ألياوا بين كتيبة دعالوخينا نارا بابداية تانيبا مشنيري أمريكاتي لون بتري سرطي ماني أمرهم ممرون خرابة بيجيبا بدو دورة مثلا شيتة 4 سر المدرسة لنا رابي سر جزء توالان أصل الزاطة شبا جمادين شما قريبا ألا بيت ردتا.
Here's the village of Seir. The missionaries and their family members, having passed away during their hard but God-pleasing mission, are buried here. Here is the church of Mat Mariam. The American school used to be in this churchyard. The American preachers widely contributed to the development of the modern literary Assyrian language. Common Assyrians who spoke the Urmia dialect, spiced with Turkish and Persian words, could not understand ancient classical Assyrian, the language used by the churches. The American missionaries also established a publishing house and published spiritual literature in modern Assyrian. The periodical Zahrir et Bara, Rays of Light, was one of them. In the middle of the 19th century, the mission of the Canterbury Archbishop of the Anglican Church started its activities among the Assyrians of this region. The preachers collaborated with and supported the Assyrian Church. They also promoted the classical Syriac language, published the Nestorian ritual manuscripts, and prepared clergymen for the Assyrian Church. In the second period of the 19th century, the missionaries came to Urmia. We often accuse them of disuniting the Assyrian nation because they chose the Assyrians belonging to the Church of the East and gave them instruction in their beliefs, that is, the Church of America, England, Germany and France. But we also must remember one important thing that missionaries did for our nation. They put our colloquial language, the language we spoke at our homes, into books. That is, the colloquial language became a language of books, magazines, newspapers and textbooks. Until then, the written language was only for clergymen or church clerks. Because of this significant work that missionaries implemented, the common Assyrians were able to read and write in a language comprehensive for themselves. The missionaries founded schools and universities as well. In Urmia, they opened a university known as Kala among the people, as it very much looked like a fortress. The textbooks in Assyrian needed for the students were published at the university. Western missionaries not only played a key role in Assyrians' educational life, but also introduced a number of agricultural tools, equipment, and modern technical achievements to the region. The wives of the missionaries and female missionaries themselves served with selfless devotion. Their positive influence and contribution to the tutorial sphere of Urmia was tremendous. Mrs. Shed was one of the famous missionaries. In Urmia there was a young ladies' seminary named after Fidelia Friske. In the beginning of the 20th century, during the hardest times for the Assyrian nation, the seminary sheltered many orphans and refugees. A large number of the graduates continued their education abroad. There was a famous tradition in Urmia. The local Muslim population here was very superstitious. They would go on pilgrimage along with their sick relatives or family members to Christian shrines. There was an unshakable belief in Muslim pilgrims towards Christian priests who were supposed to cure the sick people with their prayers to the Lord. Mar Sarkis shrine of the Syrian village of the same name is one of the most celebrated Christian shrines of Urmia. Those who suffered from psychological diseases or sleepwalking were believed to be healed by staying under the holy walls of this cell close by the church. It was believed that after they had slept as long as they needed, they got healthy. This tradition, being retained through centuries, still continues to work miracles. In the end of the 19th and beginning of 20th century, names of different Assyrian writers such as Mar Tuma Odu, David Malek and Yuvil Varda became well known. Paul Bejan, a Catholic preacher from Salmast, Khusrava village, was the first local Assyrian whose works were published in the missionary press. In the beginning of the 20th century, the Assyrians were scattered in the region of Khoi, Salmast, Dilman, Tergavar, Mergavar, and Baradast of Iranian Atrpatakan or Azerbaijan. According to certain documentations, there were an estimated 100,000 Assyrians living in Iran at that time. The region of Urmia was famous for its flourishing orchards, gardens and fields. Over hundreds of years, common villagers were growing various kinds of fruits. The vineyards expanded across areas not far from the lake. The Assyrians were renowned grape growers in the region. Here is the gorgeous scenery of the Shamshadian village, surrounded with thriving orchards and blooming gardens. The church of this village bears the name of Bnei Shemuni, who was martyred with his 7 sons for his belief. The Church of the East marks their memory the first Tuesday every May. According to tradition, 7 trees, one for each son of Bnei Shemuni, grew on this hill. The Assyrians in Persia spoke in the dialect of the eastern branch of Aramaic. There were dialects of Urmia, Supurgan, Suldus, Tergavar, and Salmast. And the Assyrians that were living in Turkish populated territories of Iran's western Atrapatakan, Azerbaijan, spoke Turkish as their second language. The lowland Urmia Assyrians living in the villages of Tergavar, Mergavar, and Dasht provinces that were near the Turkish-Persian border differed from the highland Assyrians with their lifestyle and temper. There was also Kurdish population in this region. The highland Assyrians were known as courageous and brave soldiers. Balulan village is in the Tergavar province. There are no more Assyrians here. But their church of Martuma still stands and hosts a large number of Assyrians from surrounding areas and the priest of Urmia's Assyrian Mat Mariam church. Apostle Tuma, or Saint Thomas, is one of the adored and
خزيان مخبتي بشقنا خان من خرز خاتتي اللي بتسايق على خان من سنخرتوني كالاغراكوس أعود بتوالي تشيك إيميل صار هذا خزيه ولقى خون legal advice تشبتا إن تلخون أخناخون خدشما سنقيات قانون ودن إيميل at tsk@kalolaw.com هدي بشقنا خان من داها خرزة التوني كالاغراكوس خزيانة مخبة إلى أيها صرت فلاش سيجمنت أن legal tips من سنغرة توني كالاغراكوس توني بيخ مضيقة خزيانة step by step إن خدنا ويانا جوخا car accident ين بجواجنا وخاطلاب مخيتولا ين جشولنا ويانا injured جشولا step by step مو أديني أنا ناشف.
Sure. قمت كله يمري get help. مناي مويلا get help. خبرون police ين ambulance قطعتي to the scene. Make sure everything's under control. إدي ترى إيمن هزومتهم من police قام مبرومتهم كل من دي دلوية. Up information do driver خينا قاعد شقلتنا just in case ريقي من from the scene of the occurrence. إدت أربعة pictures كما يودخ emphasize شقلتهم شكله. هذا الصناعي بالتلفون ما صيتهم شقلتهم شكله right away بالأطمابل وبت injuries دي يوخن. اتخمشة إن خدان دي injured make sure seek medical attention. منايت عزيتهم hospital ين دكتور اتقانوخن. وهل بعد it's not mandatory, but let your insurance company know with regard to what took place. Manai, notify your own insurance company too. Insurance premiums diochni. That's not the case. You have to give them notice that there's a case going on.
Got it.
Number 7, protect your rights. Manai itun injured, bayetun hayarta. تيخ شوا يومانا جوشبتا سريار بساطة جيوما 8 أربع شوا وتش 8 ترى وتش 5 خايشتا خاجا خيتا 8 أربع شوا وتش 8 ترى وتش 5 خايشتا يعني ما سيتون تازيتون ويب سايت ديان injuryrights.com بسيمة رابح.
Every day, thousands of Assyrians struggle to survive. The world's first Christian nation faces yet another silent genocide. They have been forced to flee from their homes for fear of being tortured, raped, or killed. They have no safe haven to turn to, and are forced to live as displaced immigrants throughout the Middle East. They are not allowed any basic civil or human rights, and they live in severe poverty. Their adopted countries have turned their backs on them because of the fact that they are refugees, not of their own choice. But it is our duty to bring this tragedy to light and to let the world know of their suffering. We must support our brothers and sisters and assist them as much as possible. We must not let their sacrifices and suffering to be in vain. Assyro is a non-profit organization which donates 100% of all funds directly towards helping our needy Assyrian brothers and sisters in their desperate time of need. Please visit theassyro.org and make a generous donation. Every dollar will go directly towards helping our needy refugee Assyrians in order to assist them to simply survive. Your generous tax-deductible donation will assist them to purchase food, medicine, medical supplies, to pay their rent, to care for their displaced, and other necessities which we take for granted in our daily lives. Without your help, they will be forgotten, and without each and every one of our Assyrian brothers and sisters, our nation will eventually be forgotten. My name is Bishop Mar Awa Royal, and our people are in need of our help. The time to act is now.
بدون خير تلبدي يا شمشي كنت انا مش معي دور قلبي بدون خير تلبدي يا شمشي كنت انا مش معي وبضايم بدرت الضلع واخدي وخباني بدور عن ضانا خضرا بنت زبني بضايم بدرت يرتن ويضلم واخدي وخبانم بدوران دانا دانا خضران بتزبني دور أغلي مخدلون خي لبدي أرشمشي كرب سلام شماي خياخ يا رخيخ شتمو عيني شقون روخي يا ونون دشنا قد خياخ يا رخيخ ولا تاني لي مر لدرن لي صورة بيوتا مشن تروك ليلا أبو تخاطر بيوتا لا تاني لي مر لدرن لي صورة بخيوتا مشن تروك ليلا أبو تخاطر بيوتا دور الله أخدلون خي لبدي أشمشي كرب سلام شماي طران دانا دانا خطنان بتزبني ضايم بتيرتن ويضانا واخدي وخبانا طران دانا دانا خطنان بتزبني دور اللي أخدلون خي تلبدي أخشمشي كرب سلام شماي دور اللي أخدلون خي لبدي أخشمشي جبت سلام شماي دور أغلي أخدلون خي لبدي أخشمشي جبت سلام شماي دور أغلي أخدلون خي لبدي أخشمشي جبت سلام شماي دور أغلي أخدلون خي لبدي أخشمشي كربت سلام شماي
Saints of the Assyrian Church. Numerous Assyrian churches bear his name. This Church of Martuma has a power that transfers to believers. It's in the essence of Martuma's persona. He was an apostle and big devoted of Christian belief. He left Jerusalem for India to spread the light of Christianity there. One cannot imagine the difficulties he faced while getting from Jerusalem to India. He was martyred there for his holy duty. We believe that Saint Thomas, along with Saint Edda and Saint Mary, is the founder of the Church of the East. This is one of the reasons why he is one of the most adored and revered saints of the East. The Nestorian Church, now the Holy Apostolic Catholic Church of the East, has another old tradition. The clergymen and scribes of this church decorated and rewrote a number of manuscripts. The Assyrians were devoted to that tradition, and numerous valuable holy manuscripts were created in Urmia. Throughout centuries up to the missionary expansion, the rites and masses in Assyrian churches were held with handwritten manuscripts. Along with them, booklets with Assyrian prayers which could protect people from evil eye and diseases were also created, known as khrshis. These kinds of beliefs were widely spread through the Assyrian population. Some of the missionaries collected these scriptures and booklets. They are now in different libraries and museums of the world. The favorable climate, though, did not make the Urmia Assyrians' life easier. Hard social conditions made them leave Urmia for foreign countries. A large number of them went to the Russian Empire and to the Caucasus, Tiflis and Yerevan. Many Assyrians took part in the Tiflis-Kars-Yerevan railroad constructional works. Many of them chose the Chachagog way. The Urmia Assyrians still remember what Chachagog or cross-stealer means. Even without understanding the real meaning of this Armenian-rooted word, they know the cross-stealer and his mission to leave the family behind and wander around the world for years, to take any unfair or inhuman measures in order to make one silver coin. That's what they, the cross-stealers, do. It's said that the church of Gulpashan village was renovated by Chachagogs financial support after they had gotten back home. The settlers of Gulpashan village will never forget the 1915 tragic events, the massacre of the villagers when the Kurdish bands, together with the Turkish soldiers, eliminated the village and murdered its people. According to different documentations, the city of Urmia possesses a history of 1,000 years. At the beginning of the 19th century, it was a city fortress with 5 gates that would close at night. In the beginning of the 20th century, Urmia had many colorful Easter markets, caravanserais. At that time, the city had 30,000 population of Persians, Kurds, Turks, Armenians, Assyrians, and Jews. The old Assyrian church of Mat Mariam and the residence of the governor were here. This is the church of Mat Mariam of Urmia. It is one of the world's ancient churches. About 2,500 years ago, it was a temple devoted to fire worship. As the Bible reveals, 3 heathen priests of the Zoroastrian temple, hearing that Jesus was born, went to him and adopted his beliefs. Coming back to Urmia, they changed the temple into a Christian church, and for over 19 centuries it has been functioning as a church. The bodies of a Russian monk who died in 1898, Mar Ilya, who died in 1928, and Mar Yuhanan, who was the first Iranian Assyrian to have been in America, rest at the old church. According to tradition, 1 or 2 of the above-mentioned Zoroastrians are buried here as well. During the World War I, Russians moved their tombstones to Kiev, Ukraine. The oldest part of the church is the site where the fire worship place of Zoroastrians was set up. From the start of the 19th century, Urmia's Nestorian Assyrians turned to the Russian Empire. The cooperation between the Nestorian Assyrians and their Christian neighbor can be found in a series of letters and documentations. In March 1897, a treaty was signed by the Assyrians, which meant conversion to Russian Orthodoxy. It was signed in St. Petersburg's Alexandra Nevskaya Cathedral between the Russian Orthodox Church representatives and Mar Yonan, the Bishop of Supergan, In the same year, the mission of the Russian Orthodox Church started in Urmia. From the beginning, it was a great success among the Nestorian Assyrians, and a considerable proportion of them converted to Russian Orthodoxy. The converted Assyrians did not have churches. Their masses were held in Nestorian Assyrian churches, with the Russian Orthodox Church's order and rituals translated into Assyrian.
За эти 20 лет
The Russian mission in Urmia started in 1898 and functioned till the departure of Urmia's Assyrians in the summer of 1918. Throughout these 20 years, the Russian mission of Urmia had its victories, advances and mournful times as well. Among the successful activities is the support of the Urmian historians in various aspects of their life in relations with the Muslim governors. The Russian mission in Urmia opened many schools in the Assyrian village of the region. A constellation of clergymen and teachers was created who all got Russian Orthodox education. The one that many young people got at Russia seminaries, gymnasiums. A considerable part of the graduates from Assyrian schools and the Central College of the Russian Mission of Urmia were sent to Russia to higher educational institutes. Many prominent figures of the Assyrian culture and church, having made contribution to the 20th century Assyrian culture and history, were students of Urmia's Russian mission. From its very start, the Russian mission in Urmia was engaged in translational activities. Various religious rituals of the Old Russian Orthodox Church were translated into Old Classical Assyrian, which was the language of the Syrian Orthodox churches of Urmia. The magazine Orthodox Urmia was published both in Assyrian and Russian. The magazine came out from 1905 and after a short pause started again in 1911. But in 4 years it stopped come out because of World War I. Due to objective reasoning, the Assyrians sympathized with Russian Empire and considered them as their defender country. As a result of such perception, many Assyrians in Urmia became Russian Orthodox. For instance, a notable part of the Ada villagers in 1897 converted to Russian Orthodoxy. Later in 1901, they founded the Church of Mar Yochanan. The village of Ada had 600 houses of Assyrians. Today this figure is smaller, 70 houses, and only in the summers, in a season where thick crowds of Assyrians can be seen. The stone shrine of Mar Daniel, near the village, still stands for its pilgrims. It used to be a place of pilgrimage, not only for the Christians, but for the Muslims as well. In 1906, some Assyrians began a magazine in Neo-Aramaic, literary Urmia Aramaic, Kuhva, the Star. The magazine was considered as one of the signs of a growing nationalism. The publishers of Kuhva were connected to the Protestant mission, but the magazine was aimed at all Assyrians, irrespective of their religious belongings. During the World War I era, when an entire community of the Christian population in Turkey was exterminated by the Ottoman and Kurdish powers, a range of mass destruction happened in Persia as well. mainly in the Urmia region. Military action started here with the Russian army's entrance in 1914. Bloody events burst out in Atrapatakan, the western part of Persia, where the local Assyrian population was put to death. With Russia's withdrawal in January 1915, 25,000 Assyrians fled with the Russian soldiers. Many of them, being in helpless and miserable conditions, sought refuge in the missions of foreign preachers. The American Friske Seminary sheltered hundreds of orphans and homeless Assyrians. Though very often the walls of these foreign organizations too were shattered by the Kurdish bandits, hungry for blood and plunder. The brave villagers of Taki Ardishay defended their village in 1914-1915, the time of the darkest episodes of the Assyrian nation. Another valiant page of heroism was recorded in Assyrians' epic of survival. Nearly 70 Assyrian villages were pillaged and destroyed during the years of slaughter. A large part of the residents died of suffering and hardships of the long road of deportations, winding from Urmia to the Caucasus. One can never describe the brutalities perpetrated by Turkish and Kurdish forces and the inexplicable tortures and afflictions the Assyrians in Persia face. With the end of the World War I, the surviving Assyrians returned home to Persia